Hello guys, this is Ben in Parts here, back at you with the third episode of this podcast. It's been very successful so far. The first two episodes have done really well. The first one was on the Slide Rock Bolter, which got lots of views. Second one was on the Wuhan Toads. Not a lot of views by big channel standards, but within the first few hours, they've really started to rack up, which is great, and I recommend that you listen to them. But the third episode today we're doing is on the Hodag, a cryptid whose story is interesting in and of itself. The historiography, aside from the actual story of the cryptid itself, is absolutely fascinating, and it's definitely something that has you, not, I wouldn't say on the edge of your chair, but certainly absolutely fascinated. So what is the Hodag? The Hodag is a cryptid from Wisconsin from the late 19th century, which was referred to, as many cryptids were at the time, as one of the fearsome critters. Its history is basically mainly centered around Rhinelander in northern Wisconsin, where it was actually discovered. In 1893, local media reported the discovery of the Hodag in Rhinelander. It had, according to one news outlet, the head of a frog or a bear, a large lizard-like body, large protruding tusks, the horns of a bison, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur with spines, and a long tail with spears at the end. So, incredibly fascinating stuff. Not something that you'd see every day, and if you did see it every day, I would question what planet you lived on. The reports initially came from a well-known Wisconsin timber cruiser called Eugene Shepard, who reported that he had rounded up a group of local people to capture the beast. And they reported that they'd actually had to use dynamite to kill this creature, so ferocious was it. And he didn't just stop there, he released a photograph of the remains of the beast to the media. It's said to have become extinct after its main food source, all the white bulldogs, became scarce in the area, and since there were no more white bulldogs, which apparently it exclusively fed on, it was extinct. Now, I'm not exactly sure why it couldn't eat any old bulldog or any old dog, why it specifically had to be white bulldogs, but given that this is a very strange creature, I could believe that it needs a very strange food source, and maybe black bulldogs would poison it, grey bulldogs would give it indigestion, I don't know. But either way, it could only eat white bulldogs. Shepard, however, went further. He claimed to have captured another Hodag in 1896, and this one, he claimed, was alive. And he displayed the Hodag at the Oneida County Fair, the first one. And thousands of people flocked to see it. He charged 10 cents for admission, and they were amazed by what they saw. They were already skittish, but then they would see the creature suddenly dart around, move left, move right. Sometimes, to impress them, he would actually go inside to calm the Hodag himself, to tame it, to subjugate it, and he would come out with torn clothes, making it look as if he had been attacked by the beast, which greatly impressed them more. And they were further impressed because he came out, and before he came out they could hear sounds of rumbling, of thudding, of bangs, of clangs, like there was a huge fight going on in there. Like Shepard had bravely walked in there, confronted the beast himself, a fight had ensued, and he'd come out with torn clothes, but he'd subjugate it, and he'd be like, "It's alright folks, I got the little monster, I got him." The story spread like wildfire all across America, and then a group of scientists from Washington DC announced they would go down to Rhinelander to inspect the monster. However, Shepard then made the stunning admission that the Hodag had been a hoax all along. Because it turned out that not only was Shepard a timber cruiser, he was well known in the area as a prankster. He would pull pranks on people to scare them, he would set up strange displays in order to frighten them, he would jump out at people, he would spread rumours. He was just one of those mischievous people. But you might ask, how was the Hodag moving around? But you might ask, how was the Hodag moving around in that tent when it was displayed? However, you might ask, how was the Hodag moving around in that shed where it was displayed? And the key is, he had attached wires to it, which would move it around a little bit this way and a little bit that way. That in and of itself wouldn't be enough to scare people, but since they were already skittish and he'd already hyped them up, that really would terrify them, and they would often run fleeing, they wouldn't take too close a look. His claim to have gone inside and fought the beast would also scare them. His torn clothes added him credibility. In reality, he was tearing his own clothes or changing into shredded clothing, and he was having his two sons make loads of noise behind the shed to make it sound like it was a real fight. So the Hodag, after enjoying a stunning rise to power, so to speak, then enjoyed a stunning fall from grace. However, that was not the end of the Hodag. It became quite beloved among local people, and to this day you can find Hodag shirts, you can find Hodag car ornaments, and much like Shepherd himself, people love to talk about the story. Locals will make jokes about it, they'll spread faux folklore among themselves, they'll spread tales around campfires and at parties, they'll make up their own urban legends. The Hodag, which by all intents and purposes to many people should have died out long ago, and ended up having a life of its own, which is very curious. I've not seen that happen so much before with many hoaxes. Deloy's ape, widely said to be a hoax, a picture of supposedly a giant ape shot and displayed atop a packing case, didn't really achieve that kind of fame. The Kasai Rex, now widely said to be a hoax, didn't achieve that kind of fame. It's interesting that the Hodag has achieved such fame. But what do you lot think? Have you ever known of an example of a cryptid before yourselves that was known to be a hoax but has then achieved immortality? Have you lived in an area where there's been a faux cryptid spread around that has been perpetuated in lore? And do you think that certain other cryptids could be explained by things like this? I'm not saying all cryptids, obviously, because I believe certain cryptids are real, but certain cryptids in the 18th and 19th century, in the sensationalist times before cameras, when hyperbole could spread like wildfire, do you think that any more cryptids have been hoaxes? Please do let me know in the comments section. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for next episode.